Welcome to the Red Shoe Realty podcast. My name is Stacy Sappington. I'm the broker owner of Red Shoe Realty, and this brokerage and this podcast are built for the agent to give you the tools you need to be successful in this business. Now, you also may be hearing this in the training program. No matter where you're listening from, welcome. And as you know, I always invite in the experts to give us what we need. And today I'm super excited because Sally Redmon is not only a lender, an excellent lender, but she's a dear friend. So welcome, Sally. Thank you so much for being here.
Oh, thank you for having me. Yes, friends first, right?
Yes, absolutely. I feel so blessed in this business because we do become friends. We work together, we work through problems together. And before I let you introduce yourself, I just want to tell this story. Sally and I had coffee, I don't know what, probably 2 years ago when this particular conversation happened. And as always, you asked me, what can I do for you? What do you need? And what is your biggest struggle? And I value our friendship so much for that. But I told you, my biggest struggle is my CRM. Like I know people, but I don't actually have a CRM. And that's the topic of today's podcast and training is the CRM and why it is so important and what the heck do you do? And Sally is the one that answered that question for me that day. I was struggling with that and she gave me the answer. So here she is to give you guys the answer too. But before we dive in, Sally, tell us about you.
Okay, so my name is Sally Redmon, and I've been in the business a little over 16 years. And right now I am currently helping a New American Funding as an area manager to kind of grow our footprint in the state of Texas. And so that's exciting. But yeah, that's all about me.
Very exciting. Well, let's just jump right in. The CRM, this is the golden nugget, y'all.
Yeah.
So Sally, take it away.
I think I remember when we were kind of chatting and you were telling me about your struggle. I heard this a while back. I don't know who, I didn't come up with it. Someone else did, but I'm going to quote it. And that person said that the CRM that works is the one that you work. So I think it's super important to choose one, just choose one. And if you decide not to choose one, at least break out an Excel spreadsheet and start there. So for those that don't know what a CRM is, it's basically a customer relations management place. So it's where all of your contacts are, names, phone numbers, emails, and all that fun stuff. Why is it important? Because that is honestly the foundation of your business, and it keeps people in the business long term as you continue to build and grow your relationships. So I think one of the nuggets that I think is super important is really just people don't know where to start. Like I know what a CRM is, I know what a database is, but where in the heck do I start? Yeah. So I think where I kind of push people in the direction of starting with a list of 50 to 100 people. So there's a study done in a book, and I can't remember which one because I read so much, but they did a study on they surveyed a wedding planner, graduation planner, and a funeral director. And they surveyed them and kind of found out the average number of people that attend those life events is about 50, kind of an average of 50. So I hear a lot of, well, I don't know who to put on the list. I don't know that many people, like where do I start and what do I do? And what I want you to just hone in on and think about is those big life events, those people that would come to your wedding, to your funeral, hopefully, to, a child's graduation, just those really important moments in your life. Start there. Start with 50 to 100 people. Don't overthink it. Just sit down and just start writing names down. Don't think about, are they going to want to buy a house from me? Do they need to move today? Am I going to help them with this? Am I going to help with that? Don't think about the details yet. We're just going to start a list. And so starting with a list of 50 to 100, that's where you start. I would ask you, Stacy, like, where did you start your database? Did you start with a list?
I had zero in my database, but I knew all these people. And so I went straight to my phone and just started scrolling.
Yep.
And Facebook, my phone and Facebook. That's where my people, that's where they are.
Absolutely. So those two places are actual databases where they're holding information. The difference between your phone and Facebook that's holding the contacts and a CRM is what you can actually do in a CRM in the communication contact that is kind of hands off. Because I do think that sometimes people get overwhelmed with how do I run the CRM or what do I do through it, or I don't know what to do. So sticking first and foremost with the list and continue to create that list. If you get a mental block on, people, and you've only gotten to 10, explore your phone, explore Facebook, explore your friends' parents, your hairdresser, your people that you do business with, that you go and give them business, your eye doctor, your medical doctor, whoever it might be. Just start adding names to your database. The next step after you've kind of completed that initial list is, let's see, what do I want to hone in on? What do you want to send them? How do you want to contact them? The easiest way to kind of figure out what you want to do is a touch base one way or another. I hear a lot of, well, I'm putting people on my list, but I haven't really talked to them in like 2 or 3 years. That's kind of awkward and odd. Well, if you have them on Facebook, then it's just a simple, hey, how's it going? Or like on their post, and then start the engagement. And then at that point, you can, send them an email, send them a video text, send them a voice text, whatever you can to start and re-engage that conversation. And again, we are not talking real estate. We are not talking mortgage. We are just touching base with people because we want to reconnect and engage, but we also want them, eventually the conversation will come up. What are you doing? What do you do? And that's your open door and green light to start talking about your business, because yes, it feels awkward. Hey, I'm in real estate, or I'm doing mortgages. Do you need to refinance? Do you need to sell your house? Those kinds of things. That's not really where you want to start. And I think that holds people back from starting to contact their database one by one. So do you have any suggestions on anything that you've done?
That is so true. So true. And I'm glad that you said video message, because that is my favorite. Video is my favorite thing because they get all of our communication, the body language and everything. And so, yeah, right on.
Yeah. So what's one thing that you've done to re-engage? Do you have maybe a testimony of anyone that you've re-engaged that you hadn't maybe chatted with for a while, but?
Yeah, I'll tell you a story. Whenever COVID happened and everyone was like, what do we do? I just started sending video messages to everybody that was in my database. Hey, just checking on you. How are you guys doing? Just like you said, personal touch base. And yeah, I reconnected with a lot of people that I hadn't connected to in a while.
Yep. I love it. So I think one of the things we have to remember is mind share. And what I mean by that is, if they remember that you're an agent when they need an agent, that is key. And that is kind of the reason behind the database, is making sure that people know what you do. Someone also said, don't be a secret agent where people don't know what you do. So if you were to ask 5 people in your circle, what does Stacy do? Would they know what you do? Based on maybe your Facebook, kind of what you talk about and different things like that. So that's something that I think is just, super important, is putting yourself out there. Don't be afraid. It's your business. And like I said, if those people would attend your, life events, it's okay to ask the question, if you know anybody, kind of thing. Now, I think shifting even to those that are people we don't know or are kind of just acquaintances that we're adding to our database. What I would say there is, if you need to fill your database, you don't have all of the 50 the people in your database, or the 100, is start really thinking outside the box. Like I mentioned, your hairdresser and different things like that, people you might meet out and about when you're prospecting, or if you're hosting an open house, if you are hosting an event, just gathering names, ways that you're going to gather names, community events, having a table at different places, collecting information, and what to do with that database is really just send out items of value. Sharing stuff about homes. Do you have a newsletter? That's something that is something to think about.
Yeah, that's on my to-do list. I want to do a video newsletter
That's
is
perfect.
my goal. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, some people don't always do video.
People hate it. People hate it.
Yes, I think for me, it's just as scary as presenting, just being the presenter of something. That's just me. I have to do it, kind of force myself to do it, but it's hard. I have to mentally prepare for that. What else? Touching base on database. Let's see.
Another thing that I love to do too with those people is after I call them is write them a handwritten note. And that it just seems to double the intensity of the connection, because people just don't receive handwritten notes anymore. So I call it the 1-2 punch, but very, very successful. Yeah.
I think that helps too when you haven't connected with someone in a while, is potentially allowing that first piece of contact to be a handwritten note. And then you kind of have a reason to call a week later just to ask, hey, I sent something to you in the mail. Just want to check in, make sure you received it.
Yeah.
And then start the conversation. Make it genuine, of course. Sometimes the conversation may not end in business, or it may not even go in that direction, but you never know. Sometimes you may contact somebody that just needs to hear from someone in the moment. So we are in the people business. So just kind of touching base with people is really something that we want to do. I think data that's entered into your database that's important too are like birthdays or names of pets, names of children, places they went to school, where they grew up. Just having those data points too, to be able to have conversation, or even a personal touch in writing a handwritten note if their daughter's into soccer and your card is a soccer ball. I mean, it's super thoughtful, and just, I don't know, it's just extra. It's like the cherry on top of what they're doing. So yeah,
very cool. And I like to add a PS in my handwritten note too.
That's a good one.
And hey, if you hear of anyone who needs a realtor, I would be honored if you send them my way. And so I don't bring up real estate on the phone call or even in the handwritten note, but the PS. And at that point, it's so personal and it's such a strong touch that it doesn't feel salesy,
Yeah. I think that's key. Is don't do anything that's out of your, let me rephrase that, because I do want you to do things that are out of your comfort zone. I do, but do things that are natural to you versus having a forced, I have to follow this, box thing that someone said needs to be done. Tailor everything that you learn in coaching and in anything, just tailor it to who you are. Pick and choose, but definitely do something, get into motion and action and do something, but definitely make it yours, and something that you're comfortable with, because consistency is going to be key. And if it's not something that if it's something you're having to struggle to do, you're just not going to do it. And it's not going to bring you the success it can. If you try to be somebody else, be you.
Right. That is a really, really good point. And I'm glad you said that. And especially as new agents, I think that a lot of times new agents feel like, well, if I'm going to call somebody, then I've got to have all of my numbers together and ready to talk about the market, know what I'm talking about, and not feel like they're ready for that kind of in-depth real estate conversation. But those conversations usually don't happen on the, hey, how's it going? And so when someone says, well, how is the real estate market? Oh, it's fantastic. If you ever want to talk about it in depth, let's plan some time to sit down and talk about it. And I'll give you some comps or whatever, but you don't have to be fully prepared with all of the details in order to make these calls. In fact, the less business, the better. I think that's where the personal connection is.
Yeah, absolutely. And one, you don't want to give them all the information at once because you want to definitely have multiple conversations. But I think it's also important as a new person is, or even as a seasoned person, honestly, at any point in time, is just to be okay with saying, I don't know, or let me get back to you on that. That's a great question. I know enough to be dangerous, but let me make sure and confirm all of the information before I give you a straight on answer in that direction. So I
Yeah.
just think being okay with saying I don't know, because we don't know everything. Hey, I learn something new every single day in my industry, even on the real
Yeah, me
estate
too.
side too. It's like, what? I've
Me too.
been doing
You
this
don't ever
this
learn
long and I still
everything.
don't know that.
Yeah. Yeah. You don't ever reach that point where you know everything because every deal is different. So
Yeah,
absolutely. And people respect that too.
yeah,
When you
I think
say,
so.
I'm not sure, but I'm going to get back to you. And then you go and get the answer. And then people respect that. At least I do.
Yeah. And again, another
Yeah.
reason to call back. So another touch
Yeah.
and,
Yeah.
and something else might come up at that point. And, it's okay to not know.
Right. Yeah. So true. So true. Okay, so we've got our list and we've got them into some sort of database and we're making these touches. How often do you think we should be touching the people in our database?
Personally, I think you should be touching them 2 to 3 times a week. And that sounds like a lot, but but you're not going to touch them in the exact same way every single week. And that's why a database is important, because it may not be a call that week. It may be a text. It may be a video text. It may be a voice text. It may be an email. It may be just a ping on their Facebook, love your picture, whatever it might be. But
Mm-hmm.
I think we need to think of the contact that we make with our clients as more touches than we do actual phone calls, because I think people
Right.
get caught up in who's going to call somebody 3 times a week. Like, that's kind of weird.
Yeah, but if you think about going to those 50 people's Facebook pages and commenting on their photo as a touch, then that's really not that much. And that links us with the algorithm. And so that way they see our stuff.
Yep.
So it's a
Yep.
double
Yeah. Or PM
benefit.
them, or if they like your picture, you can PM them and say, hey, I appreciate you liking my picture. Even if they didn't comment, it's just getting in there to get the algorithms happening and going to, if social media is kind of the, where you want to be. But you definitely want to try to touch in 2 or 3 different ways, not just the same way every single time.
Right.
Ultimately, you want to get to a phone call. I think that's like you win the prize if you're able to get on the phone and just have a conversation. Because the other stuff, honestly, it's the easy stuff. It's like just
Yeah.
it doesn't require a whole lot of effort other than just sending whatever it is you're going to send. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, I do think 2 to 3 times a week in some form or fashion. If you have content that you have created to do an email blast of some sort, whether it's just suggestions or tips and tricks or different things like that. I think it's important, if you're going to start a campaign of some sort, that you plan it out, that you take a day where 3 or 4 hours of your day are just content creation, no matter what it is, whether it's emails or posting on Facebook or whatever it might be. But just being super intentional with that, because you will run out of ideas. It's harder to, at the very beginning of the day, really sit there and think about what you're going to post. For me, I've done that, and I do that on occasion. It's like, this is just too hard. I'm not doing it. I don't have anything interesting to say, so it's one of those things you kind of have to juggle. But it's important to probably set aside a day, which goes into planning a week. What do you want to do every day of your week? If Mondays are your touch base days, whether it's just, okay, today I'm going to touch on 10 people and that's my goal. 10 every day, you've touched your 50 by the end of the week, not including weekends, in some form or fashion. But just definitely having an action plan put in place on what you're going to do, how you're going to do it, and then just go for it, and tweak it along the way. Give it a try for 30 days, whatever it's going to be. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. And you want to tweak, I guarantee you it's going to work. It's going to work in one way or another. It's going to work. And, you know, you just have to tweak from that point on, and you'll see the results if you put in the work. Yeah.
Yeah. And, you know, I think one of the biggest roadblocks for me was, I know so many people. I mean, if you look at my Facebook and my LinkedIn, I have 3,000 contacts in my phone. So in my mind, I was like, this sea is way too big. How am I ever going to manage this, you know? But in reality, it's 50 to 100 people. I love that. Who are the people that are coming to your birthday party? Who are the people that are coming to your funeral? Which is an awful thought, but that's going to happen to all of us.
Yes.
And that helps so much narrow down the sea of people to our little inner circle.
Yep. And you're going to constantly be putting people in and potentially taking people out if they say, don't ever call me again.
Yeah.
Kind of thing, which if they're your closer circle, that may not happen, but you're definitely, it's ebb and flow in the database where, you set the standard. If I've reached out to somebody X number of times and I haven't been able to get them to engage in some sort of response in a thank you or anything, then you want to reconsider. But keeping that list of 50 to 100 is super manageable. And then if you start getting bigger outside of that, it's really going to be more of an automated type of a database. But your constant calls and your true connections that you're wanting to make are the ones that are actually interacting with you, that you're actually getting somewhere with. The rest of them, eventually they may come around. They may receive an email from you and they're like, oh my gosh, I've been thinking about you. And I know it's been a year, but I saw your email, and they call you. So you never delete them. I don't delete them out of your database. You just kind of, maybe they're a C, you're A, B, C. Maybe they went from an A to a C because they hadn't responded. And then you're just kind of moving that. But I think it's important too to remember that we're in a people business, and people get busy. Life happens to a lot of people. Different things happen. I mean, heck, we've just been through some craziness over the past couple of years. Things happen, right? So it's not necessarily even that it's that they're not interested or that they don't want to engage with you. They may have something happening in life. But when that thing passes, then maybe they'll begin to re-engage. So just staying in front of people is just, I can't bring that home enough.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And, another thought that came to me, one of the things that got me tripped up was, which CRM should I get? Because let me tell you, if you Google CRM for real estate, you're going to get a list, and then you're going to do the deep dive into the rabbit hole of researching CRMs. I'm going to make this real easy. If you want something free, I would set up a Google form so it's a link that you can just send to someone and you get to create it. So what do you want to know? Name, phone number, email, address, birthday, whatever. And then that goes into a Google sheet. Or if you're willing to pay for something, I would choose Lion's Desk. It's the one that I chose for two reasons. One, it does send text messages, and two, it uses video, and you can send video and email or text message, which I love video. So those would be my suggestions. And I always give a free option, and a Google form. Google anything is beautiful. The Google form would work really, really well for that.
Yep. And that's honestly, Lion's Desk is the one that I hear the most often. It's more of a real estate database. And it's when I ask agents, like, what CRM do you use? That's the one that comes up the most often for those two features. And that's, when we talk about send somebody a text, again, it doesn't mean that you have to physically go through and send 50 texts. It's a set it and forget it type of a situation where you go in and a text goes out at a certain time to a certain number of people, and again, it goes back to, I have people say, well, where's the personal touch? Well, that's where you come in, right? So even if you are sending the mass texts that come in and go to each individual, if that's all you're sending, then you're basically just a robot. But if you're doing that as a part of your touch point, then the personal is already intertwined in all of it,
Right.
and you can get a better result that way.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's why I love video so much, because when you send just words, whether it's a text message or an email, that's 7% of the communication, just the words. And then
Yep.
when you add on the tone of voice, so if it's a phone call, then you get 45%. But 55% of the communication comes from our body language, our demeanor, our facial expressions, especially my face. My face will tell you 100% of what I am thinking.
I think that's why I'm scared of video. It's like I'm trying to figure out where to put my hand, and am I open, close, like.
Yes, I have that problem as a photographer. But at the end of the day, it truly does give 100% of the communication. So I'll be honest with you, I don't like calling people. I just don't. And I actually don't really like it when people call me either. But if I send a video,
That's
just kidding. But you know what I mean? If you're not expecting a call from whoever, and they call you out of the blue and you're like, oh, I can't talk right now. It's just awkward, right? But if you record a video of yourself and send it, it's so valuable. It just really, people just really, they feel like they've seen you recently, even if they haven't. Mm-hmm. And that's what happened after those videos that I sent during COVID. People started telling me, I feel like I've just seen you recently, but it was because of the videos.
Yep.
So yeah, so powerful. And using that with the CRM, this small number of people that we can really and truly manage and nurture those relationships. That's key. Can't nurture relationships with 3,000 people.
No. And your database will grow once you start closing business. So for your seasoned agent who has closed, even if you've only closed one, that is your client for life. And continuing to stay in front of that person for check-in, it's a constant reach out to them one way or another, so they don't forget about you, but that you're constantly checking in on their anniversary of their purchase of their home. If you've gotten to, you more than likely have gotten to know them throughout the transaction, so if they have pets, and when birthdays are happening, and you have that form completed, or you have that information tied to their information within your database that you can use as touches. So it starts to get easier as you start closing transactions as well. And it kind of shifts the direction of the people that you're touching. That 50 kind of cycles through, right?
Yeah, definitely. Awesome. Okay. Anything else that we need to put on top of that?
I don't know. I think that's it. I think that's a lot. I think just the reminder that the CRM that works is the one that you work.
Yeah. So don't get caught up in researching which one. Just make a decision. Do I want the free version? Do I want a paid version? And just go.
Yes.
That's it.
Yes.
Awesome. Well, Sally, thank you so much for being here with me. It truly is an honor to be able to do business with friends. And guys, reach out to her. Here's her phone number and her email. Reach out to her. She has helped me so much with struggles that I've had in my own business. I know that she'll do the same for you. And again, Sally, thank you for being here, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks for having me.
Of course.